Welcome to another exciting edition of Plank of the Week. And as ever, we have got a whole host of plankery to deal with over the course of the next hour. So stay tuned to find out who's going to win Plank of the Week. I'm delighted to say two stalwarts of the organisation are with me today. Dawn Neesom, Daily Star columnist, star of stage and screen. James Max, similarly a columnist. Everybody's got a column around here apart from me, which is absolutely ridiculous. But you're in the FT, you're in Daily Star. You can't say we don't cover all the bases.
You've got a lovely little column, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed. Too much. Anyway, why don't we talk about Joe Biden?
Right, okay, let's start off with Joe Biden then.
Yes.
The leader of the free world. Obviously now taking orders from a terrorist organisation, the Taliban,
right.
Ignoring the G7, any allies, the UN,
human rights,
ignoring women, children.
Even his own military advisors he's now ignoring.
Advisors to get in bed with the Taliban. Obviously, not only did he actually leave everybody in Afghanistan in the lurch by getting out literally overnight and being on holiday while it was happening, by the way, but now he has also in a somewhat rambling, I thought, press briefing.
It is a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yes. Didn't he go on for like 10 minutes about domestic policy?
Well, this is the thing.
Getting to the thing we're all talking about.
It's almost as though he's trying to make out that actually America is more important to him than anywhere else in the world, and actually Afghanistan doesn't really matter. Somebody's obviously told him.
It's kind of his predecessor's line, which is, put America first, make America great again, and all this stuff. Yeah. We've got to recover from the pandemic. Kind of forgetting that even if you did want to get out of Afghanistan, and I understand that most presidents...
I think that's fair enough.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
How you do it is the key point here. And what he's managed to do is he's made a terrible situation worse. He has communicated very badly, not only with that country, causing chaos and confusion and anguish and hurt and death and destruction and all those terrible things in that zone. Apart from that. But then also, he's managed to destabilise the whole of the West against an individual who, frankly, should be having an easy ride, given who his predecessor was.
Well,
and a lot of people are looking at his predecessor going, hang on a second, you had a better grasp of international politics than this guy does.
I know, and exactly right. And he's also, in addition to all of those things, which are all true, he's left behind about 87 billion quid's worth of quite important and quite sophisticated armoury and various bits of military equipment, which the Taliban now own.
The Taliban have literally said thank you.
Yeah.
There was one warlord who's been interviewed sitting on an
and he did. He said thank you, didn't he?
And he goes, what would you like to say to Americans? And he goes, well, thanks.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, I've got my new night vision glasses.
Why did he tell the Taliban what he was doing, how he was going to withdraw, and the timetable, before he told any of our allies and the Americans on the ground and the translators?
And this week he's made it worse. He's actually made it worse by saying that they're definitely leaving by the 31st. Did you see his press spokeswoman who was in the White House just before he spoke? And when she was asked what time is the actual deadline, she didn't know.
She didn't know.
Is it like midnight London time, midnight Kabul time, midnight New York time? Nobody knows.
No.
But this
so my guess is they're all going to be out there by Friday.
This is what we're aiming for, isn't it? The Brits are aiming for that.
Yeah.
I think that's because they're trying to make the very best of a desperate and an awful situation. But then also, I think that there will be a huge amount of anger and anguish in this country, given not only the fact that a huge amount of money has been spent and lives have been lost, but also, are we going to trust our leaders when they come to deal with very difficult issues again? Because this has been a horrible mess, and you must go back into history in order to understand it was the Americans who kind of caused the situation in the first place, because they were funding the resistance group against the Russians, and then they didn't really look into who these people were and what they stood for, and then they double-crossed them, which caused the whole terrorist attacks against them, and then they said, but this is so terrible against us, and then they fought back, and instead of going into Afghanistan saying, we are going to get these people. These are the guys that we're going to go and get, and then we're getting out. They went and stuck themselves in for some great glory, or they thought that they could get hold of the minerals and the assets within Afghanistan.
Well,
I don't know. It's all a mess.
But I never heard of all these minerals until like this week or last week. I didn't know over the course of the last 20 years that here was a place that was anything other than a kind of a desert kingdom full of rocks and stuff, like bombing. And we used to joke about, bombing Afghanistan back to the Stone Age would be an improvement.
Yeah, quite.
Because it's so kind of, medieval. But it turns out that they've got the sort of Saudi Arabia of lithium. which is the thing everybody wants.
Which is why didn't they have the head of the Taliban yesterday issued a plea saying, please don't take our scientists, our engineers, our educated.
I didn't know they had any of those.
Well,
evidently
they do.
And that's where a lot of the money's been going.
And a lot of them are women, and it's like, please don't.
Oh,
take
sorry,
them.
I thought you meant the Taliban.
The Taliban, that's what I mean. But a lot of them, women working in Afghanistan, are educated. They are now scientists and engineers.
No, but I didn't mean to say that there were no Afghan scientists. I meant no Taliban scientists.
No. Well, the Taliban
they're not big on science.
Yeah, they're country bumpkins running around with Kalashnikovs.
Right.
But it's like, please don't take the educated amongst us, especially the women, because we like to break them while we uneducate them.
Yes, but they can't have them running anything because they're not allowed out the kitchen.
Stay home, it's not safe.
Yeah.
Now, why isn't it safe for Afghanistan women? Oh, that's because the Taliban are in control now. That's it.
Like
It was perfectly safe
they'd like to
before.
kill them.
But I simply don't understand where we have ended up with our international relationships. That even if you have a look across Europe and then you have a look at the mealy-mouthed messages from the French and the Germans and various others who are saying, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, but where were you when these discussions were happening and should have happened?
Yeah.
Oh, you were so focused on your own either internal politics or trying to, beat us over the head as the Brits, as we were trying to sort out a decent deal for Brexit, that you couldn't be bothered to look at the international stuff, which is where we've always said we want to cooperate. We've always said that we believe in these institutions. We've always said we act together and it's much stronger. What we haven't said is we don't want political union, we don't want financial union, because it makes the rich richer and the poor poorer.
And you can have two separate entities.
You must, but they
don't
can't.
have to go
they're
along
binary
with everything. But that's the problem.
Yes.
But also, the words are all very well, aren't they? I mean, they had this ridiculous virtual G7 conference yesterday, which they might as well not have bothered having. But the previous one that they did have in Cornwall, which cost loads of money and got everybody infected with COVID.
Yeah, and they ignored every single regulation they'd set us.
And then issued a statement which turned out to be complete and utter balderdash because they didn't mean any of it. No. It was all about standing shoulder to shoulder and internationally treating each other well and making sure that the West was a sort of a force for good. Well, what happened to all that?
Well, Biden, the dodgy old git, completely ignored it.
Bye-bye to all that. Can I just give a special mention to Chris Bryant as well, the MP?
Yes.
Who, unfortunately, somebody dug out a tweet of his from Election Day last year, 6th of November 2020, in which he said, "I'm proud I nominated Joe Biden for the Nobel Peace Prize. His Zen-like calm is going to be vital now, calming the troubled waters, binding the nation's wounds, and strengthening the international rules-based order."
Ouch.
Well done, Chris.
Yes, good
Top
work.
man.
Yes.
Great work.
To be fair, he looks as if he's candidate for plank.
Well, do you know, I almost was going to make him a plank just alone for that.
I mean, maybe we just
it
all
could
give
happen.
up, go home and give it to him.
It could happen, because the trouble is, I feel that there's going to be a lot of sort of synergies today, because an awful lot of the people that we're going to nominate are kind of connected.
It is all linked,
Right?
isn't it?
There is a lot of Lincoln stuff.
James, what about your first nominee?
So my first nominee, who probably has a lot of people who should be connected to them, is Dr. Gail Bradford.
Oh, yes.
Now, Dr. Gail is one of the co-founders of Extinction Rebellion.
Yes, fine woman.
Fine woman. Yeah, well done for sorting that one out. She is another one of these individuals who like to tell us how to live our lives and what to do and disrupt our lives with these things, saying, it's so important for the planet. But when it comes to her life, she'll do what she wants. So if she wants to drive around, she's got a diesel car, apparently she can't afford a battery one. Well, there is public transport that you keep telling us to use.
We're supposed to be walking and cycling around.
Exactly.
So carry on with your diesel car.
And apparently it's a really awful, it's not just a diesel car, it's a really old diesel car, which means that it probably doesn't pass Sadiq Khan's ULEZ rules, which probably means that it stinks to high heaven. Because whenever you now get behind a really old car, you can smell it coming out of the petrol fumes.
But you see, I like a really old car, a 40-year-old plus classic.
I used to have a 15-year-old Mercedes M-Class, a 4x4, and it used to smell like an old chip pan going past. I don't know what was going on. I took it in once to the guy after I'd bought it for about 2,000 quid. Took it in to get serviced, and the guy said, "I've never seen a filthier engine in my life." I don't think anybody had ever fixed it. And there was leaves everywhere. He took all these, he was taking things out. And it was just...
A few dead bodies?
Yeah, probably. I found out when I sold it that it had actually been written off. Well, I didn't know that when I bought it. But, but it's a dreadful woman.
And I just was like, I cycle everywhere, okay?
But she'd also done an 11,000-mile trip, because apparently it was good for her zen.
This is to Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, it's 2016, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was 11,000 miles, but it was a long haul.
It's further than Mexico.
What I really struggle with is also there are a lot of people who then suddenly start saying, "Oh, it's so important."
Yeah,
we must
they're
do
such
this
great people.
So we've got the actors who fly all over the world to do their job. Oh, but we're doing our job. We've got people in very privileged positions who then fly on their private jets to go to perhaps preach on these matters.
Yes,
we then
or even a polo match. That was really important.
Yes.
For the world peace.
Well, I mean, see, their defence of that is, I did it for charity. Well, so what? So what?
Still
You
take
did
a
it for
train.
charity. You still go on a regular flight.
It was 750 miles. I mean, drive. In your eco-friendly car, obviously. Drive, get a train.
Well, just get a. I mean, it was like. Do you remember when Leonardo DiCaprio once went to Cannes Film Festival and he was asked a question about his own travelling habits, and he actually thought it was justifiable on the grounds that, and he said, "I flew commercial," meaning he didn't take a private jet. So for him, that was fine.
Yes.
Because he actually got on a plane that was going there anyway.
In which case, can I just sneak a little mention here for Stephen Fry?
Stephen Fry, yes.
Who has been supporting the Extinction Rebellion and the pink table in the middle of Covent Garden. What was that about? No idea.
Well, luckily the police have removed that file.
Yeah, I know, but why did they even allow to
I
get it
know.
out? Meanwhile, the Gurkhas in their little tent in the middle...
They took that down.
They took that
fast
down
enough.
straight away. Any case, Stephen Fry is backing them and, loving the dirty protest, and we need to cause as much disruption as possible, da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, he is the face and voice of Heathrow Airport, welcoming travellers to the UK
make it up.
who have all flown in on, there be those pollution pumping out jet things.
But then
he's very much against.
He's also an individual who has two homes, and nothing wrong with that, but flies between them because they're not in the same country. One of them's in LA.
Oh.
He's also got a Bentley, I understand.
I love a Bentley.
I love a Bentley.
And a black cab.
I don't mind what these guys do.
Black cab.
I just mind what they say.
Just don't lecture us.
But you see, here's where you tie it all together. I don't mind people. Yes, exactly. A little bit of drawing. I probably need a chart. I don't mind people telling us that we need to change our lives or do anything else.
I do.
That's fine.
Well, I do.
No.
It's not fine.
No. What's fine is when they ask us or suggest to us that we need to change our lives.
No.
But they lead by example.
Well, no, but why should anybody be telling you how you should live?
Because sometimes you need to have some guidance.
Why?
And then
Do you?
Yes, because
Because
then
they'd
you
make
could
a right mess of it, let's be honest.
No, because then you can make the choice as to whether you do it.
No, listen, I've lived quite a long time on this earth. I don't need any bozo and just happens to be wearing a caftan and a beard telling me what I should be doing with my life. He can get lost.
How do you know what he wears at weekends?
But if
I don't need anybody's advice.
Well, I think that's a little bit arrogant because I think sometimes it's helpful. Yeah, I know it is. But it's your choice as to whether you listen to them. What I find...
No, it's not. It's my choice as to how I live my life. As long as I'm not harming anybody else, which I'm not, I will do what I bloody well like. Thanks very much.
I think it's right and fair that people should be allowed to put forward their ideas and thoughts. What I find distinctly distasteful is when it's hypocritical. And what we're seeing is time and again with all of these organisations, they'll say, you mustn't travel, you mustn't do this, you shouldn't go there, we're killing the planet, we're doing this. And then you look at their own personal lives and they're doing all the things that they're telling us not to do.
Right.
So that's where I object. If somebody who is righteous...
but there's a difference, James, and I think this is where you're mistaking advice for kind of things that are good, because you can make a policy statement, you can be from Extinction Rebellion or the Green Party and say, look, I happen to believe that this is the way the economy should be put together, I happen to think that this is the way that the society should be going forward. I don't mind that. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay,
of course, I'm very happy to have people putting out ideas, but I'm not happy to have somebody telling me how I should be living, like what car I should be driving, what food I should be eating, where I should be going on holiday, how many children I should have, all of that. So that's the difference.
You see, the other thing, which none of them are discussing, which of course is the most important, is the biggest polluters are, of course, us as human beings. And whilst I wouldn't necessarily want to have people telling us how big our families can be or not, again, you could suggest and say, well, we've got to do something with population control. And say, for example, if more advice was given...
Well, why don't you go to Africa and tell them that there?
Correct. So if you gave more health advice to
or even
people,
Afghanistan.
Well, in the poor countries where they need larger families to help them survive.
Right. Well, they say that, but if they had smaller families, maybe they wouldn't need so much to survive. See what I mean? It's obvious, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of issues here. But what I also find though,
listen, I've had all the kids for you two. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. You've had my share actually.
Yeah, I have. And
yeah. Ultimately, what we're really saying is that the hypocritical lot need to be the plank.
Yes.
Dr. Gail is the leader of the hypocrites.
Leader of the planks. Leader of the planks.
What I did one last thing on this though. What I don't understand is that lovely pink table thing.
Yes.
No idea.
No idea.
Why didn't they fly? To force themselves to take one last flight, go to China and try and put that lovely pink table up in the middle of Tiananmen Square.
Yes, that'd be good.
Good luck.
Now, would you support them if they did that?
Yes, I would.
I think I'd enjoy that. Yeah, because
Because
then probably it would be Extinction.
Yeah,
Exactly,
well,
because
it would be the
China-
end of them. Yeah.
It would be a rebellion Extinction.
Exactly. China, 27% of the world's CO2 emissions. We do 1.
Yeah, but now
The
have you
UK
seen
do
what they're
1.
now doing though? The new mantra, right, is to say, oh, but the thing is, all of China's emissions are because of us, because
Yes,
we buy all the things
because
that they
we buy
make.
all the
So
things.
now apparently we've exported our emissions.
Yeah,
so now
we've
we have,
exported them.
and this is where
fault.
my next one comes along, because I'm actually going to separate out Greta Thunberg from.
Oh,
all
How
the
dare
rest.
you!
How dare you! Who I thought had gone back to school for a while, but
well, she
apparently
would.
not.
She's 18 now,
I mean,
isn't she?
yeah, she's 18, but she still has the pigtails
I
of a
know,
12-year-old, which
I
is a bit
know.
weird,
Yeah.
bit strange for me.
She's still wearing ladybird clothing.
But the reason I'm going to put her on the planks list separately is because of that exact sort of. She's accused Britain of lying, right? Which I think is a pretty serious charge to accuse a country of being liars, right? Now, I don't know what it's got to do with her, first of all, but she's basically claiming that we are involved in some clever accounting when it comes to emissions, because she claims that we should be counting all of the emissions in China, which is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard.
As ours.
Because apparently we have exported all of our industry to China, but we buy it all back in terms of goods. So therefore, we should take the emissions as well. In which case, we're no longer reducing our carbon emissions by 40%, which is what Boris Johnson claims we're doing. So I just think, one, she's terribly rude. She needs a lesson in manners.
Yes.
And also in diplomacy. And also, typically, because of the fact that Boris has kowtowed to these mad extremists, it's never enough. They're now saying, well, it's not good enough. You've got to do more. You know, it's not good enough to tell everybody to get heat pumps and to have,
But
electric
heat pumps
cars.
aren't the answer.
Of course they're not. And neither are electric cars.
Well, electric
And none
cars,
of
you
us can
see.
afford them in any case.
Well, we can.
I can't.
Well, yeah, you probably could actually.
Well,
probably
Dr.
could.
Gail can't.
Electric
She's a
cars.
doctor.
Electric cars. I've been driving one for 12 years. I've
Yeah,
lived
but
with
you're
them.
loaded, though.
No,
rich.
it's not a question
you
about.
are.
No, it's not a question about loading. It's not a question
Well,
about.
it is
that.
actually.
They can.
Because they're
They
very
can
expensive.
be very affordable. That's not the point. The running costs. are far
Teslas
lower.
are not affordable to ordinary people. They're
No,
not.
I agree, but there are lots of other cars which are electric, which are, but that's not the point. The point is, for most people, the barrier is less about the cost, and it's more about the fact of where do you charge it. If you
Yeah.
don't have a driveway, if you don't have a charging
Yeah,
point,
right.
it becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
And so you
And
have
of course
the
the,
minister who comes on
the
and says,
laptop-
"Oh, we've got 25."
The laptop brigade who are all sitting in Chiswick with their big mansions
Yeah.
going, what do you mean you haven't got a driveway? Really?
Yeah,
Why
well,
not?
right.
I know.
Why haven't you?
How dare you?
know.
We actually have a charging
I've got a
point.
private road, but it hasn't got any charging points on it.
No, but we've got a charging point in our local high street, right? But it's in the middle of one of those hideous bus zone things that Mayor Khan's put in now,
Oh, yeah.
where you can only drive down it at sort of like an hour in the middle of the day, otherwise you get a 60 quid fine.
Yeah.
So you can't actually drive to the charging point and to
I mean,
charge
they
your
have,
car
they have, I
up.
mean, they have come up with some quite clever ideas. In the street that runs parallel to where I live in London, they've got charging points on the lampposts,
Yes.
which actually is quite smart.
That is smart.
But again, only good if you happen to have a spot that you can park at, right? The other problem, I had this from a taxi driver the other day. It's an electric taxi driver. He went to plug in his car in a BP garage somewhere in London. He then got a fine for overstaying the parking spot, because apparently you're only allowed to stay there for half an
I
hour.
heard this one. Yeah,
And it
yeah.
takes him 40 minutes to charge his taxi. So he charges his taxi for whatever cost it is, then he gets an extra £100 fine for being there for 10 minutes too
just
long.
making it impossible,
It's ridiculous.
aren't they?
But that's
I know.
because there's no joined-up thinking, and you also have people who are making statements by some of their policies. I mean, have a look at what's been done to our capital city whilst our backs have been turned with the pandemic. The number of traffic lights and the way they've changed the phasing,
Oh.
the way that they've put up
a
bus lanes
nightmare.
and cycle lanes, and the one-way systems, and the parking and the charges and the ULEZ and the you name it. And meanwhile, you have that wretched mayor going off and
Sadiq Khan.
walking
Sweet Khan.
walking his dogs, having taken a cavalcade.
He took three
Three
cars
cars?
from Tooting Common, where he lives,
4 miles.
where there's an awful lot of green space to
Yeah,
walk a dog.
yeah.
He drove to Battersea Park, 3.5, 4 miles away.
4 miles?
And also the car that he was in
Yeah.
is one of the most polluting Jaguar 5-litre engine petrol
Yes.
scenarios. And you just think, again, I don't really care if he needs protection and if he needs to be followed around by 2 other people in cars. Don't tell everybody else to walk.
Well, quite.
He tells
Yes.
everybody
And
else
you
to
know,
walk. If you go onto TfL's app now, when you arrive anywhere in London, the first thing it tells you is how to get somewhere on foot
Yeah.
or by bike.
Constantly, you're always getting lectures on the tube. It's like, you know,
do
get
this,
up,
do
walk,
that,
do
wear this, wear
Yeah, you
that,
see what I
don't
mean?
do that.
That's
And
why
then
it's
the other
annoying.
thing is, the quality of the voices that we're now hearing, that apparently they're meant to be more like us. So they're now indistinguishable and they can't speak properly.
Who's that?
All the announcements are made by apparently by staff. They're probably not by staff.
No, right. Yeah, well, I'm now being told, just to show that this show is absolutely up to the minute, breaking news.
Breaking.
Extinction Rebellion have now blocked and shut down Oxford Circus.
Marvellous. What large pink thing have they put in the way there, then?
Well, maybe it's old Dr. Gail. She's quite large and pink.
Why aren't they arresting them? If you go 25 in a 20, you'll get the fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's virtual policing, though.
Yeah.
They don't mind doing that because they don't actually need a physical presence.
Yeah.
But I was saying this the other day to Kevin O'Sullivan, funnily enough, on the show. If the police are saying that it costs $56 million to police all of these Extinction Rebellion protests, except they're not really doing anything, why are they charging us all this money? Because if the police are not actually doing whatever it is that they're meant to be doing...
Because they've been busy painting their police cars rainbow colours.
They're busy, hang on, they're also busy sitting in vans, because you can go anywhere in London today and you'll see at least 1, possibly 10 police minivans.
Do they charge for the coffees that they buy?
Well, probably, but they just sit there. They charge for extra people being brought in from the provinces.
And then they just sit there.
Charge for people sitting in vans, basically, and they don't arrest anyone.
You know the rainbow cars that we've got in London now. You've probably got them in other cities around the UK as well. But
I think they're up north as well.
With the rainbow cars,
north.
to make it easier for people to come forward and report hurty word crimes, I think is what they were encouraged to do.
It's like,
I actually read that story while I was sitting reading my local newspaper about a 17-year-old lad that was stabbed to death just down the street.
I'd call that a hate crime.
And Mayor Khan is worried about the blooming hurty word
I'm not sure if
crimes.
are we nominating Sadiq Khan today? I can't
I
remember.
just feel like we've talked about him a lot, haven't we?
Is he part of the
It's not
maybe he's in the extra category that we've all nominated.
I think he might be.
It's part of the climate thing. But just for the record...
Do you know what we could do, and to break with tradition?
Yes.
Instead of me carrying somebody over from last week, we could have a joint nominee.
Oh my God.
Which would be Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
Maybe
We've all nominated him.
We've all nominated him.
He's
we
number
just
10.
got round him on a roundabout way, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just for the avoidance of doubt, I'm not
he is a
hypocritic.
plank, and he is quite high up on the list.
I mean, by the way, I just do cycle everywhere. I haven't eaten meat for 35 years and don't drive a car, Just saying, yeah.
Have you ever had a car?
I did own one before I moved where I moved now, yeah.
Did you?
That's
what
over.
sort of car was it?
It was Ford Escort.
Lovely.
It was lovely. But you know what? The best thing about my car was it's bright red. It wasn't brand new or anything like that. But the number...
Red Escort?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I never.
What a surprise.
The number plate, you'll love this one.
Yeah.
The number plate was this one. It was L441 PMT. And I got it really cheap because no one else wanted to drive a number plate with PMT on it.
So that was an old L then, was it?
Yeah, oh God.
Wow.
It was that long ago. I was about 1872 or something or other. When I was a kid.
Did it have a starting handle?
Was that before they invented PMT?
Do you know, when I worked at the Mirror, you'll like this one. When I worked at the Mirror, they did one of these ridiculous surveys where they got a sort of load of people in to talk about the paper, and they said what sort of if the Daily Mirror was a car, what sort of car would it be? And they were all terribly disappointed when the answer came back a Ford Escort. And I said, this is great. This is exactly what you want the Mirror to be.
I would have said
reliable,
an Allegro.
Affordable. It's a reliable car. It's affordable. It's an everyday car. It's not flash.
It's ordinary people.
It's got ordinary people driving it.
What I like to drive in a
But
Ford
they were
Escort.
all the execs were disappointed that it was an Escort
What
because
did they
none of
want it to
them
be?
had
What
ever
did they
been in
want
one. Well, at the time, Piers Morgan was driving Aston Martin.
I think he still does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got two actually. One in LA and one here.
Everybody loves
He's
an Aston.
Antigua, isn't he? I think.
He is in Antigua,
Yes, he's been having a lovely time there.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, I've seen the pictures.
Jubbly Bay.
Absolutely right. I'll tell you a story about him as well. But no, I can't do that now.
On air?
No.
Oh.
Back to you for your second
Oh my
nominee.
God, I was getting so carried away with all the
I
climate.
know.
I was getting really hot under the collar there about that one. Right, okay, so where should we go now? Should we go to the National Trust?
Why not? The
Why
National
not?
Trust.
Yes.
Let's go to the
Because
National
actually,
Trust.
you've had them in your sites before, haven't you?
I have.
The National Trust.
Are you a member of the National Trust?
No.
You had to think about that.
He was.
He looks like a member of the National Trust.
No, I have been in the past because I liked what they did. But then they've become so political.
They've become very woke.
Yes.
And I don't want that, and I don't want to fund that stuff.
Yeah, this is the National Woke Trust now.
This is great.
They have.
Well, except I'm not sure they are woke anymore.
What do you call this then?
Well, they're hot now.
Well, if they're having a siesta, then they're not woke, are they?
See, you can see.
He's already ahead of you there.
I know, I know.
Very sharp.
2 hours sleep. In any case, the National Trust now is offering staff the opportunity to switch to Mediterranean working hours. This because climate change is sometimes making it too hot to work in the heat of the afternoon sun.
Climate change.
Hello.
Also, we're talking about Richmond here, aren't we?
Yes.
It's not the Sahara.
No,
Richmond.
we've actually officially had the wettest, coldest August in the UK.
Ever.
And they're offering them a chance to have a nice little siesta, so they can go and have a lie down in the afternoon.
Not content
to avoid the heat.
Not content with writing explanations inside of their many mansions of how ashamed they are to actually be showing you anything that belongs to the person that used to live there, because of course they were no doubt colonial beasts.
Oh, they must have been.
Almost certainly. Why don't they just give them some, Why don't
they just concentrate on what they're meant to be doing?
Apparently it's impossible, according to them, to do any gardening in the heat. Really? I mean, it's gardening.
I mean, I garden here. I mean, that's where my beautiful tan comes from.
Exactly
I've been growing lots of vegetables.
I mean, couldn't you just wear some shorts and a t-shirt and garden?
I don't want to think of him in shorts
and
a t-shirt.
I mean,
no, that's too much.
What's
wrong with that?
That's horrible.
He lives by the sea.
What's wrong with shorts? I mean, if it's...
Charity have also warned that unless global emissions fall rapidly, homes and other attractions will have to close due to excessive heat and storms.
What a lot of
storms! I mean, really? We had a storm the other day. It was a bit wet.
I know.
I mean, you have to shut the house down.
I know.
But isn't this? I mean,
it's not Hurricane Henri, is it?
No, but this is where, if you're an expert and then you start to push into the future, the only way that you can get a newspaper headline is by saying the apocalypse is on us.
Yes.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's
it's
just about, and here's the proof.
Proof.
It's what religious leaders used to do.
Yeah.
Say this and you will be damned. You will go to hell.
I made the mistake of having BBC News Channel on last night because I thought Biden was going to speak.
Preaching,
but then he was late. He was about an hour late. So he just kept sitting there like an idiot.
Having a little siesta.
He probably was.
He's been working for the National Trust. He should be in there.
He should be, yeah, back in the coffin with him. Here's the thing. This guy was on talking about how it's almost certain now that climate change was the cause of the floods in Germany. And he then went on to explain how they'd come to this amazing conclusion. And it was all about modelling, believe it or not.
Oh, no.
And it was all about how...
Where have we heard
here's
that
what we've
before?
done. What we've done, and you might have seen this already, but there's a building somewhere in Germany that's got high watermarks from different years of all the various floods that they've had. And the one that they've only just had is only about a quarter of the way up.
Compared to the ones
from like 1512, where it's all the way up here. There's another one from 18 somewhere. There's plenty of high watermarks higher than it was this year.
Before we all had
gas-guzzling
cars.
You drove around in your red Ford Escort, And so...
So
he started to explain. So he said, so we put all this information in as to what we think the world would have been like if there hadn't been industrialisation. You're kind of going... So you've put in why this has happened already, and then you've got the result out the other end that it happened because of the thing that you said happened. That's not really science.
No.
But then also, every time you dig up a forest, every time you plough a field, every time whatever you grow on it, it's going to change the environment, the local environment, how things drain, how things work, where water goes. In the same way that if you build properties on a floodplain, then you should be prepared, by the way, that on occasion it might flood.
Because the water has to go somewhere.
Because the water has to go somewhere. So if you don't put the right infrastructure to deal with human existence, then guess what? We are going to have weather events. And there have always been weather events, and people say, but they're so frequent. Well, they've always been frequent.
Yeah.
If you look into, historical times, they were always happening.
I remember the heat waves of the 70s, when I was growing
76.
The 80s,
76.
76 from that lovely, long summer.
My parents went away on holiday somewhere, and me and my sister went up on our flat roof and got burnt to an absolute crisp before going to see the premiere of Tommy. The Who movie, which was great.
Yours was a cool summer. Mine was...
But he said we had to sit there.
You were a baby.
Well, I was 6, I think.
Yeah.
1976, but I still remember it.
I was dragged on a hideous family holiday. It was
brilliant,
absolutely wasn't
amazing.
it? Yeah. But anyway, talking of flooding, it just gives me the chance to mention very briefly, obviously, my favourite story of the day.
Go on.
Beavers.
The return. Why do they do this? Like about once a month, they do the return of beavers. I think people do it just to say the word.
Everybody,
because everybody sniggers. Everybody sniggers.
Everyone likes a bit of beaver, though, don't they?
Well, not everyone.
Yes,
actually.
No, it's true. Actually, they don't. I mean, frankly, if I had a beaver,
you just keep it as a pet.
No, I just call it Justin.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. There's a joke there somewhere. If you can figure it out, you may win a prize.
Answers on a postcard.
Why did we always have to drag it down into the gutter with you?
Because I'm here.
I know. This is the trouble.
My next one.
Your next one.
My next nomination is anyone who blames any shortages that currently exist in supermarkets, in McDonald's, in any stores, in KFC, in Nando's, on Brexit.
Yes.
I am
Do you mean the BBC?
The BBC.
Right.
Lots of people actually.
Ridiculous commentators on the social medias who say, "We told you! We told you it would happen!"
Yeah.
There are shortages elsewhere in Europe, by the way.
Spain is dreadful. They've got a real shortage of lorry drivers, which might be connected to this as opposed to Brexit.
Well, we've got shortages of a lot of things. And as a result of the pandemic and the pingdemic, guess what? Across Europe, they haven't been making enough things. That's why, for example, cars, if you order a new car, you'll find that you have to...
Obviously.
Not advising, couldn't possibly, unless it was an electric one, but you haven't got the money to do that. But if you were going to put in an order for a new car, then you're going to have to wait longer because the chips aren't available because of the pandemic.
Chips?
And, chips are going...
Well, who orders a car and chips? I mean, I thought they were shortages of milkshakes, not chips.
Oh, listen.
Hey?
Beautiful.
I mean,
car and chips. By the way,
can you have beaver and chips?
Like,
alpaca and chips.
no, stop it. Stop it. Now you've gone too far.
all I can say is that if you do ever want to have chips in a car, make sure it's a rental car. You can never treat a hire car too harshly.
No.
Chips, beautiful.
Chips,
Yes.
yeah.
Anyway, back to...
What about beef?
Would you stop
Yeah,
with that?
that's on the back seat.
Yeah.
And make sure...
Not for you, it ain't. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you know that society is literally teetering on the edge of ruin when people are getting worked up because they can't get a milkshake at McDonald's.
Yeah, I know,
I mean,
it's
really?
ridiculous.
Have something else.
Well, quite.
Have a bottle of water.
I mean, Michelle with 1L, who's been helping with me with my dietary action, would not approve of that sort of thing anyway. So
No.
I haven't been getting to, McDonald's
Probably
or
a good
anything
thing
at
if they
all.
run out.
I'm with Michelle with 1L because they are lethal. Have you looked at how many calories and fat content?
Oh, they're about 18,000 calories.
My
They're
kids,
just
my kids like them, but we don't let them go to McDonald's very often.
It's a week's worth of calories in
It's
a
horrendous.
in
They
a
are.
drink.
Oh, it's absolutely
disgusting,
horrendous.
yeah.
But I mean, again, if you're running Nando's and you run out of chicken, I think it's time to change the guy that works in charge of the chicken, isn't it?
I
That's all
did
you
enjoy,
do.
but if you're going to enjoy a social media campaign based on failures, how KFC have dealt with, do you remember when they did have a chicken shortage?
Yeah.
And they said, we just had to do one thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
Order
more
more
chickens.
chicken.
And I think that it is very important if you're managing it, how you manage your brand and how you deal with that. Don't think McDonald's it hasn't been bad, but I don't think that they've made most out of it. I think whoever was there was very cautious about what they said. They should have said, they could have made some jokes about it. They could have been, they could have got a little edgy with it, but they didn't do any of that. And they just said, we haven't got any.
Yeah. I mean, they might take the view that anybody talking about them is good, regardless of whether it's because they haven't
They
got...
could have had
Because
some fun. I mean,
somebody might go, I didn't think about McDonald's until now, but now they're talking about it. I think I'll go and order a Big Mac or something,
Clucking out with one out chicken.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the headlines, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
On the
know.
front page
Yeah,
of
it
one
was.
of the papers.
On a paper that I might be quite close to.
Is
But
that
coming
right?
back to this point, I still despair at the number of people in our country, politicians and commentators, who rue the day that we voted to leave the European Union and will pin their hopes on any little thing.
Oh, yes.
And it's always, and the BBC, by the way, they do it in a very subtle way. It's, I don't know, and Brexit. I don't know, and
It's
Brexit.
snuck in,
And
isn't it, all
it's
the
just
time?
snuck
It's
in,
like-
and it's presented as fact,
Right.
which it isn't, and it's presented as almost as if they've normalised it,
Yes.
and it's like, no, stop doing that. That's bad news reporting. That's you imposing your view without any evidence whatsoever onto the debate.
Yes, and it's
Not
done
acceptable.
in such a casual way that it's almost
Said
insidious.
enough, it becomes fact.
But
It's
they can't-
almost
but they
insidious,
can't-
though, isn't it?
They
'Cause it's
can't
almost
let go
like
of Project Fear, can
No,
they?
they
I mean,
really can't.
this is part of our lives now. With everything, Project Fear applies.
Well, how many
Yes.
times have we seen that story that turkeys are going to be in short supply at Christmas? Or
Every
I think last year
year.
was it last year? It was or the year before? Pigs in blankets.
I like a bit of stuffing.
Do you?
Yeah.
I've heard that. Anyway, Christmas lots about after
With
all.
your beaver.
Now, would you stop? I'm going to go with my second nomination, right? And it is. I'm taking you back up market. It's the Bards
Just wonder where you were going with that
Back
one.
up market.
As opposed to down.
It's just down the road. It's the Globe Theatre, the home of Shakespeare. Because, of course, as you all know, if you've been anywhere near the Globe Theatre, it's not the actual Globe Theatre. It's on the site of the original Globe Theatre. But it looks like it was. All Americans think, is this where Shakespeare used to write his columns?
Yeah.
And you go, no, actually it wasn't. It's a replica. But it looks quite old.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine anything worse than watching a play in the open air.
It's in the open air. I did try it, right? And
Really?
You're sitting on wood because
Do they give you blankets?
Bit cultured. No, not me at the time. But you're sitting on a wooden seat.
Yeah.
It's
But they're too
cold.
narrow for a fat
Pretending
arse.
well,
I
you're
mean,
gonna,
it's not
What a
ideal.
fat bottom.
not you.
Cheek.
No,
One.
he's talking about himself, I think.
Oh yeah, fair point.
But it's not as listen. The point is this:
Bottom.
surely
that's a
it's
character,
very
isn't it?
uncomfortable.
It is a character.
Surely it's very uncomfortable.
It is very
to sit there.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what if it rains? What do they do then? Does it get rained off?
Well, no,
No,
because
they
the roof
carry
is
on.
over a bit of it, and then
Yeah.
It's-
As you can tell, I've never actually been there.
I have
I've
been
walked
there.
past it many times.
I quite like it, but I
You're
get
cultured.
very, indeed, I get very disappointed when I'm overwoked. by what's going on.
Unfortunately, this week, or towards the end of last week, maybe, it was revealed that they're putting on Romeo and Juliet. And it's so upsetting, apparently, Romeo and Juliet, because of the themes that it covers, including love, lust, hate, suicide, drug taking.
Drug taking?
Apparently they've modernised it, so apparently there's a lot of people taking drugs. I presume they're all on electric scooters as well. I don't know, but it's to bring it back. You know how these theatre people like to make it relevant to today's age, right? Anyway, in order to make it relevant to today's age, as if Shakespeare needs rewriting by some bozo from South Bank Poly. It's not really relevant to me, so I'll change it. Anyway, so they've also included in the programme a number for the Samaritans. Just in case you get so triggered by what you're watching that you might have to ring them.
Yeah, but they've probably done so many awful changes that you probably would be slitting your wrists on the basis that it's just that awful. This, here's another 2 hours of my life I'll never get back.
This is rubbish. Can you come and firebomb the theatre immediately?
Help me out of this hell.
Send a helicopter immediately.
So they seriously offer you like helpline advice when you walk in, don't they? You can, if you feel you're being upset by a play that you may or may not be aware,
which you probably went to see voluntarily.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We weren't dragged there, made to watch
it. At what age, though?
Offered advice.
At what age is it that you can stop being very careful about treading on eggshells about saying what you actually feel? Because this is that age is now getting older and older.
Well, I've always been like that. But I mean, here's the thing: they also give you details of a health charity called the Listening Place, which is another place you can get in touch with. And to be fair to the Globe Theatre, actually, their answer to this and their explanation was that, well, it's nothing more than everybody else does in TV, which is true. Because if you watch, as I sometimes catch the end of, is it Hollyoaks that's on before the Channel 4 News? So I've only ever seen the last 2 minutes of that show because I put it on just before the news.
More than
it is, but at the end, it always says, if any of the issues have upset you, call this number. And I think it's probably the Samaritans number. So, I mean, they're saying... but, I mean, we don't need it for Shakespeare, for Christ's sake, do we?
I know.
Really?
No.
If you need emotional support, it says.
Well, you'd have to rewrite literally. I was just trying to think of a politically acceptable Shakespeare play.
Well, Macbeth's a bit scary.
Oh, Macbeth,
the witches and everything.
Yeah.
But they all are.
And the moving trees.
And it's witch shaming as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak
you can't
out
do any of that.
Haggard old women. I'd like to speak out on my own defence there.
They wouldn't be women, would they? They'd be people of non-binary gender. Wouldn't they?
Well, but then also, the witches are definitely witches.
Well, there's probably some underage activity going on in some of the Shakespeare stuff as well.
Romeo and Juliet.
Well, quite.
Well, I mean, she was certainly underage, wasn't she?
It's definitely not acceptable.
No.
Right, so now we're up against it on the time front, so let's rattle through your third nominees.
Well, once upon a time, boys, there was a tiger who came to tea.
Oh, yes.
But this particular tiger wasn't just a character in a children's book that was written in 1968. And it's a simple story about a talking tiger that came to tea.
Yeah, happens all the time.
This tiger is actually encouraging men to rape and sexually assault women.
Bad tiger.
This is basically, cutting a long story very short, this is Rachel Adamson of Zero Tolerance, can't talk straight now, which is a Scottish charity working to end men's violence against women and funded by the taxpayer. That's us, by the way.
Great.
She has decided this 1968 classic by Judith Kerr is problematical because it's old-fashioned portrayal of women and family dynamics. Basically, a tiger goes to a family's house, woman cooks tea, dad comes home from work. That's it. That's
tiger eats all the food.
How are you getting rape out of this? Are you looking at that book, boys, and thinking, I'm going to go and sexually assault a woman now?
I'm really not.
No.
It's ridiculous. It's totally and utterly one of the most ridiculous stories of the week.
It is, but it's good fun, isn't it?
It is good fun.
So, and it's a lovely book, and it's still one of the best-loved children's favourites.
I've got it at home. I've got the kids love it.
Yeah, I know, and I just think it's she's saying it's gender stereotyping. Well, she's gender stereotyping because she's saying men are such idiots that, the gender stereotypes in this book are going to trigger them to go and attack women.
And guess what? Somebody's going to be cooking dinner or tea or something.
And women are so upset by this.
It might be dad.
Unbelievable.
So it's doing down both sexes.
It really
I'm
is.
not upset by it, honestly, love.
That's good. Thank you. Right. James, your third.
I don't quite know how to categorise a group of people, but I'm going to. Everyone in Love Island. I am sick and tired of this boring, tired,
repetitive,
knackered, repetitive, ridiculous.
It's enough about you. What about the programme?
Stupid programme.
I agree with James. I think it's nonsense.
I think it's nonsense. I think it's overlived its lifetime. It's. I think for the people who take part, I think it's deeply damaging. I think for the population who watch it, it's just.
It's worshipping all the wrong things.
Yes,
and
it's praising all the wrong things. It's encouraging a whole load of bad behaviours. I think it's a huge amount of time wasted. ITV need to sort themselves out and stop putting this rubbish on. And it's time that it went. And to be honest, they should all be.
I think it's a nice bit of harmless escapism.
No,
I haven't watched this series. I haven't watched this
I don't
series
think it is harmless escapism. I think it's encouraging young people to actually try to look like the way those people
but the
look.
thing is,
and
Mike,
most of them have paid quite a lot of money to look like that.
And also to make money in that.
I totally agree. I don't agree with the fact that everyone's got fake teeth, eyes, boobs, bums.
But it's all about building followings that they then become influencers and then make a lot of money from it. And I think there's no but. It's revolting.
There is a but, because in the programme's defence is what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Because if you look at any social media account of a person of that generation, obviously not including us, they're all like that in the first place. So the programme.
Yeah, but what about the ones who can't be?
But why are they like that? They're like that because they aspire to be on that programme.
No, but what came first? I mean, the programme is capitalising on a trend for people
I
to
think
be
if there
what I'm
wasn't
saying
social
is,
media.
it's time to move on.
Yeah, but I think if there wasn't an outlet for people who thought, if I do this, I could make money on that show, they wouldn't be looking like that. Because,
well, if you go on Love Island, I must admit, I mean, all this mental health thing, if you go on Love Island and you don't know what to expect, then that is just plain stupidity. I'm not blaming the programme for it, though, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I don't think James is either.
I'm not blaming the programme, I'm just saying
it's rubbish.
The whole thing, Love Island, the cast, the concept, everything, Plank, needs to go.
I have heard a bit of an exclusive here. I have heard they're doing a middle-aged, grumpy old people special next year, and we're all three up for it.
I only just squeeze into middle-aged.
Bit of nice underboob.
Yeah, absolutely fine. What are you talking about me for?
You just spent the whole time talking about beavers.
Yeah, we can't have that. We can't have that. No more of that. We're going to run out of time. We're not going to get to the end. Right, my final nominee, and it's very nicely bookended this because we started off with Joe Biden. I'm going to finish it up with Boris Johnson because he's his counterpart. You know, the special relationship. I'm sick to death of hearing about it because one, it doesn't really exist anymore, it never really did exist apart from between old Ronald Reagan and Maggie Thatcher and probably during the Second World War. But apart from that, forget about it. But Boris Johnson has now kind of managed to get so much wrong over time that he almost is going to have to be plank of the week every single week, or he's going to have to be in the list. You know, his latest incursion into foreign policy was that he was going to go to the G7 and persuade Joe Biden to extend the deadline from August 31st for another couple of weeks so they could get some more people out.
That worked well.
Failed. Didn't even get off the ground, right? He's now decided it's a great idea to offer the Taliban a load of money to do some things that we'd like them to do as long as they agree to some conditions, which of course they've always agreed to, but which they then never do. And we're going to hand them millions and hundreds of millions of pounds so that they can buy some more weapons.
We've already handed them hundreds of millions of pounds.
Well, we have.
Left all our kit behind.
But that doesn't mean...
but
that wasn't technically... That was mostly the
any.
Americans. But, I mean, the point is, it's not exactly the greatest idea that he's ever had.
And whose money is this exactly, Michael?
Well, the money is actually sitting in a fund. I mean, some of the money comes from the IMF as well, which they've also withheld.
Yeah.
But the point is, you don't just give them money.
No,
You don't recognise them. They took the country by force. They are not a legitimate government. They should not be being talked to at all in any way, shape or form.
Come on. This is Taliban Mark II. They are the new cuddly-wuddly, woke, inclusive Taliban.
Because there definitely haven't been any human rights abuses across the country, have there?
All the women have disappeared.
Well, the fact that the diversity minister is a bloke with a beard, Kalishnikov slung over his shoulder, tells you everything you need to know.
So is every other minister, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's
they've all got beards and Kalishnikovs. Well, I couldn't possibly begin to comment. I suspect it's a question of which kind of scarf they're wearing, I presume.
Maybe.
Something like that. But also, I mean, you know, he continues... He was on holiday, right? Now, I don't know if you saw this little detail, but like everybody else, including Dominic Raab, he allowed the Minister for Afghanistan, Lord Armid, I didn't even know we had a Minister for Afghanistan. He was on holiday as well. He didn't even know what was going on. The entire heads of the civil service, all on holiday at the same time. Boris, the most ridiculous thing about Boris on this holiday, he was in Cornwall apparently, staying at that house that his father used to take in the summertime, which is why they did the old G7. Apparently he was seen basically walking with his red boxes towards the station in Taunton. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I would have thought, as the Prime Minister, surely you would have had a better form of transportation than a train to get back to London.
Given that Sadiq Khan could take his 3-car cavalcade to go and walk his dogs, and Boris Johnson is walking to the station.
But he's like literally walking with his shirt hanging out.
Yeah, but I wonder who's doing the better job. At least he's slightly more normalised.
Apparently last year, when he went to holiday in Scotland, he was nearly swept out to sea. I mean, you just think, what's going on? Well, he must have clung onto a rock or something.
I think the reason he was getting the train because a certain indoors said,
well, this is the thing.
No gas
So
guzzling
is he
car
now
for you,
no
matey.
longer going in a gas guzzling car?
No.
Because the
No.
Prime Minister of this country has his shirt out, walking up a hill on his own with some red boxes which contain some probably
because the old dolphin hugger indoors tells him to.
It's unbelievable. It really is absolutely unbelievable. And I just wonder what's going to happen next. Anyway, so those are my three nominations.
Golly
we'll finish with
gosh,
the Prime
this is
Minister.
a tough one, isn't it?
This is very tough. So
very
why don't
tough.
James tell Dawn what your three are, and she will pick one for you.
So my three are Dr. Gail Bradbrook,
Oh yes.
co-founder of Extinction Rebellion and all that stuff. Anyone who's blaming shortages on Brexit, and the whole of Love Island, the cast, the concept,
It's good, that.
the crew.
I like all that.
I'm going to do Gail Bradford.
It's got to be done, isn't it?
It's got to be done, yeah.
Okay.
Because she also encapsulates an awful lot of
It's you know, because she sort of like has Sadiq Khan in with her as well,
Yes.
doesn't she? So, and
She stands for
Stephen
a whole load of
Fry
things that we hate.
and Harry and Meghan and
Oh.
anyone lecturing us
Yes.
hypocritically who
She
won't go to
represents
China and
them
do
all.
the same. Yes.
Power to the people.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so what are your three?
Right, my three are Rachel Adamson of
Yes.
Zero Tolerance and The Tiger Who Came to Tea, for a bit of light rate, obviously.
Yes.
The National Trust for the Mediterranean working
Oh,
hours.
yes.
Because of our, obviously, heat wave that we're having. And Joe Biden.
I think it's got to be Joe Biden
Oh,
again.
God, it's a shoo-in, isn't it?
It's
I mean,
got
how
to
could it not be?
I mean, I know the other two are also great.
Yeah.
But they're not as bad as him.
No. Did you notice how he pronounced Taliban last night as well?
Yes.
Taliban.
Taliban. Well, that's the kind of Pakistani one, isn't it? It's like Pakistan. And that's how they pronounce it.
Can't say that. Can't say that.
Okay, my three. James, pick one of these. I've got the Globe Theatre, Greta Thunberg, and Boris Johnson.
Quite tough. I don't think. I think I'm going to go Globe Theatre.
Okay.
Because Greta.
You said that in a very thespian way.
Well, thanks.
Oh.
Because
He's
we've
only one of
already
us here who's
got
been
the,
there.
we've already got the we've already got the.
I mean, Boris is not that bad.
Boris
this
is
week.
not that bad, and to be honest,
No.
you know that
It's a sort of collective.
It's just a sort of like he could be there every week if you wanted
Yeah.
him or not, but he hasn't done anything particularly bad this week. He's just a bit absent.
Mind you, it's only Wednesday. I mean, there's still time.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's only time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning we'll be opening the papers. Why didn't we go for Boris? No, and I think Greta, yeah, but I think she's more covered by the good
By
doctor
Bradbrook.
Bradbrook,
Yeah.
and but
No,
the-
I like
the-
that.
Yeah,
I like all
But
that.
let's go for the
So,
Globe.
I mean, is it going to be then that the winner is Dr. Gail Bradbrook, do you think? Possibly. She's going to be pumping for Joe Biden because she likes to win. She
I
thinks
like
it's
to win.
competition.
I'm a very, very bad loser. And let's face it, he is affecting the entire globe.
Well, he is.
With him being a
is
plank.
Of course,
finishing off.
it is your vote
But so's
because
Gal, really.
He is finishing off the world.
I would happily go for Joe Biden, but the thing is, he was last week, and I don't think he's done anything else. We're just still cross about his
Did you
decision
watch
last
him
week.
last night?
Well, he has made it worse.
Oh, did
hasn't
you
he?
watch him last night?
Yeah, he's made it worse, but I mean, I just...
He hasn't done much.
I'm just listening to the Taliban ignoring G7.
He's just basically made it possible for the Taliban to murder thousands
He
of
is.
people.
But you see, the thing is about the whole... And I'll put my case for Dr. Bradbrook.
I presume she's not a medical doctor, by the
I
way.
don't, probably not. I have no idea what
Yeah.
she's a doctor of being ridiculous.
Talking
is
rubbish.
that
Doctor of
we
Diesel.
seem to have
Talking of rubbish,
adopted...
120 tonnes worth of rubbish, let's be clear, from their late demo. Yeah.
Well, quite. So last year it was kind of a novelty, or whenever it was that they did it before, and it was a novelty, and everybody was
It's
like,
not now.
"Oh yeah." And this is just not a novelty. We're trying to deal with the post-pandemic. We've got an awful lot of things to worry about. By all means, put your messages out. Let us make our decisions. Stop imposing your decisions on the rest of us. It's hugely disruptive. What Joe Biden is doing is hugely dangerous, but totally out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about it. The guy's a cretin. He's lost the plot. He'll die soon, and then we can all move on. She
Fair enough.
is causing major problems
Yes.
to our city that we want
Yes.
to get around. We are sick and tired of hearing this
She's
nonsense.
a massive hypocrite.
She's a massive hypocrite, along
yeah,
with all the rest of them.
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I don't like their behaviour. I don't like what they're doing to society, and I don't want them on our streets.
I'm sold on that. I think that's a very, very passionate speech. Well said. I'm going to go for Dr. Gail Bradbrook as well. Then, shall we do? Shall we
it's
make,
'cause it's all
we'll make
encompassing.
Biden can be second.
Okay, fine.
That catapults him into the top 20
Yeah.
planks of the year as well.
Yeah.
Very much with a
Yeah.
bullet, as it were. Globe Theatre number 3. So Dr. Gail Bradbrook also should be named as a plank for calling Christo, our colleague here at
Oh,
Talk
my
Radio,
lovely Christo,
an attack
yeah.
dog.
How dare you,
She called him an
bitch.
attack dog. You can't
I
say
know.
that.
I mean, has she met any of us?
I mean, I mean, really, he's really not an attack dog.
No, not really. I mean, the king dog is here.
He's more like a sort of over-enthusiastic
Are you
puppy.
talking about me or him?
As somebody said. King dog. Anyway, well done, Dr. Gail Bradford. Whatever you're a doctor of, you're now a doctor of plankery because you have won Plank of the Week. Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Get back in your diesel car and head off back
Yes,
to the
now
West
go
Country.
home in your diesel gas guzzler.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon. See you next time.